What if I told you that one of the most popular apps in America makes more money when you feel worse about yourself? Not when you're happy, not when you're confident, not when you're satisfied with your life, when you're insecure. Think about that for a moment. Every morning, millions of people wake up, reach for their phones, open Instagram, and immediately begin comparing themselves to other people. People they've never met, people they'll probably never meet, people whose lives may not even be real. And yet, those comparisons shape how they feel about their appearance, their success, their relationships, and their future. The question is that just an unintended consequence of social media? Or is it part of the business model? Because in 2021, a Facebook whistleblower named Frances Haugen leaked thousands of internal company documents. What those documents revealed about Instagram was deeply troubling. According to Instagram's own internal research, 1 out of every 3 teenage girls reported that the platform made them feel worse about their bodies. Not social media in general, not the internet as a whole, Instagram specifically. But that wasn't even the most alarming finding. The research also showed that teenagers who already struggled with body image issues spent even more time on the platform. Not less, more. Think about what that means. The people being harmed the most were often becoming the most engaged users. And despite having access to that data, the platform continued operating the same way. To understand why, we need to understand something fundamental about human psychology. Back in 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger introduced a concept known as social comparison theory. His research suggested that human beings naturally evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. Who's more successful? Who's more attractive? Who's doing better? Who's falling behind? For thousands of years, this instinct helped people understand where they fit within a group. But social media transformed that instinct into something entirely different. For the first time in human history, people could compare themselves not to a few dozen individuals, but to millions of people every single day. And that's where the problem begins. Because Instagram doesn't show reality. It shows a carefully edited version of reality. A vacation photo doesn't show the stress that came before the trip. A fitness transformation doesn't show the hundreds of photos that were deleted before the perfect one was posted. A luxury lifestyle post doesn't show the debt, anxiety, or sacrifices behind the image. But emotionally, our brains often respond as if those images are completely real. Every perfect photo becomes another piece of evidence suggesting that someone else is happier, more attractive, more successful, or living a better life. Over time, many people begin measuring themselves against standards that don't actually exist. But Instagram isn't just a collection of photos. The real power lies in the algorithm. An algorithm that watches everything. What you like, what you linger on, what you replay, what catches your attention for even a few extra seconds. Most people assume they're choosing what they see. In reality, the algorithm is making many of those decisions for them. Let's say you pause on a fitness influencer's photo. Instagram notices. The next day, it shows you more fitness content, more workout videos, more perfect bodies, more opportunities for comparison. Eventually, your feed begins to look completely different, not because you intentionally designed it that way, because the algorithm learned what keeps your attention. And here's the uncomfortable reality. Content that creates a small amount of insecurity often generates more engagement than content that leaves people feeling satisfied. Because satisfied people move on. Insecure people keep searching. Searching for answers. Searching for improvement. Searching for validation. And every extra minute spent scrolling creates more advertising revenue. That's where influencer culture enters the picture. Influencers themselves aren't necessarily the problem. They're operating within a system that rewards attention. Here's how the cycle works. An influencer posts a flawless photo. You see it. You compare yourself to it. You feel slightly inadequate. Then comes the solution. A skincare product, a supplement, a fitness program, a fashion brand, a lifestyle upgrade. The message is often subtle, but it's remarkably consistent. You're not quite enough yet, but this product might help, and so the cycle continues, over and over again. In 2023, influencer marketing in the United States generated more than $20 billion, an enormous industry built around attention, aspiration, comparison, and consumer behavior. But perhaps the most concerning effects are no longer happening online. They're happening in the real world. Plastic surgeons have reported a growing trend known as Snapchat dysmorphia, a phenomenon closely linked to Instagram culture as well. Patients are increasingly arriving with filtered selfies of themselves and asking surgeons to make them look like the filtered version. Not a celebrity, not a model, their own face, just digitally altered. Think about how extraordinary that is. A person looks at a version of themselves that has never existed and begins to believe that version is more desirable than reality. The filter becomes the goal. Reality becomes the disappointment. And when enough people experience that feeling every day, it begins to change how an entire generation views beauty, success, and self-worth. Now, none of this means Instagram is inherently evil. Millions of people use it to stay connected with family and friends. Many people discover opportunities, build businesses, learn new skills, and create meaningful communities through the platform. The platform itself isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is understanding how it works. Because once you recognize the system, you start seeing it differently. You notice the comparisons, you notice the carefully curated images, you notice the endless cycle of aspiration and dissatisfaction. And perhaps most importantly, you realize that much of what you're comparing yourself to isn't reality. It's content. Content designed to capture attention. Content designed to maximize engagement. Content designed to keep you scrolling. So what is Instagram really selling? Connection? Sometimes. Entertainment? Absolutely. Inspiration? Occasionally. But beneath all of that, it's also selling something else. A future version of yourself. A version that's more attractive, more successful, more admired, more perfect. A version that always seems just one purchase, one follow, one click, or one product away. But the moment you get closer to that version, the finish line moves again. Because complete satisfaction isn't profitable. If you were completely happy with yourself, you would spend less time searching, less time comparing, less time scrolling. And that's why the most valuable user isn't someone who hates themselves. And it isn't someone who fully loves themselves either. It's someone caught in the middle. Confident enough to keep posting. Insecure enough to keep comparing. And that's where the system works best. So, no, I'm not telling you to delete Instagram. I'm simply suggesting that you see it for what it is. A machine built to capture attention. A machine optimized by data. A machine that understands human psychology better than most people realize. And the moment you understand that, you gain something incredibly valuable. Perspective. Because the most rebellious thing you can do in a world constantly trying to convince you that you're not enough is to realize that you already are. Look up from the screen. Talk to real people. Build real experiences. Create a life that exists beyond the algorithm, because the life you're being sold online was never completely real. And once you understand that, the algorithm loses some of its power. Think about it. Then decide who's really controlling the scroll.